Welcome back. I've run out of these. This is number 13. I think I've got up to, I made a load more for the kits that have been very popular because originally these were sold like this, ready finished, with the pendulum obviously mercury compensated, or what looks to be anyway, and then people said, well, having built the NetNet Throbwell, do you sell any other kits? So I went ahead, and it's such a complicated process turning something like this into a kit. You wouldn't have thought so. You'd think, well, he knows what he's doing, he's got all the bits and pieces, all he has to do is to shove it all in a box before painting it. But no, dear friends, the time it takes to basically re-engineer the whole thing and then put it together and work out how it can be assembled, trying to rule out any need for special tools or equipment or knowledge or whatever else. It's one thing to be fiddling around in here putting stuff together and fixing it as you go. Another thing when you have got a customer with a box full of bits. So, anywho, that's beside the point. I need to make another 20 finished ones. So, as you know, if you've watched previous videos, there are the bases all stained and ready to go. That's number 46. I don't think I've put them in order. I think they got up to about 60 now, which is amazing. Bearing in mind that each one is individually numbered, why make life simple for myself when I can overcomplicate it? Let's talk jigs. So, to make this, I cut and laser engrave this part. The reason for the funny teardrop shaped engravings are that I realised, as I've said before, very early on when I started making the first one with circular numbers, trying to get them lined up on this in the right place and everything was ridiculous, but having a teardrop shape means that they just slot in one way around. And again, what turned a horrible job into really quite a delightful one, if you like, superglue. So then I thought how to get this back bit that needs supporting. So this isn't actually, but imagine that's 10mm thick. So I cut out a disc 10mm thick and glue it roughly onto the back. Initially I held this down and drilled it, and then each one would suddenly snatch up as the drill went through, spin it round and make the hole all wonky. So decided I'd come up with a jig to help me, and here's a jig to help me. So that goes through there. Of course it's not now, is it? Minute I pick up a camera, there we are. That goes through there. I've got the little pilot hole in the centre. I can then keep this loose. Oh no, I clamp that down, that's right, clamp that down, and it gives me a bit of movement here, so as I'd start to drill down it picks up the centre of the hole, then I can drill it. But what was happening, because again laser cut things you get quite a bit of distortion, especially when they're thick like 10mm, the backs of these weren't necessarily flat. In fact most of them weren't, so they don't sit horizontal. So it would be perfectly in the centre at the front but slightly on the wonk at the back, which didn't make that much difference because it still rotated perfectly, but it would do that a titchy little bit. Titchy little bits aren't good enough. So this time when I came to drill out 20 of these, now it's supported on the underside of the 3mm laser cut section. So that slots in there. I clamp this down, and then again it gives me a little bit of movement, leeway in the middle, and it does, because I've done it so many times, it will always find the centre of the hole, the pilot hole cut by the laser cutter, and then I can drill through just holding this. This stops it jumping up, and it was a joy to do. So now I've got 20 of these with 4.1mm holes drilled through the middle. As you can see, it doesn't line up with this back bit that I glued on, but that doesn't matter at all. It looks fine and it is right in the centre. Then let's talk drill bit. Here's a 4.1mm drill bit, which there we are. And this has got tape on, because drill bits, normally high-speed steel drill bits, general purpose ones, have very sharp, have very sharp cutting edges that actually actively cut into the material, such as wood or metal, and scoop it out. Whereas with plastic, that's not very desirable. Plastic is far better drilled through by scraping. So what I've done is to grind off and make the ends of this drill bit absolutely flat. So they're nice and sharp, there's a nice angle on there, but they're not slanted forward, so they don't cut it out, they scrape it out, and it makes such a difference, it really does. you get a much cleaner hole, and you can't beat a cleaner hole, and it doesn't grab so much, and it just works far better. It doesn't overheat, doesn't tend to sort of jam up and clog up. So there are another top tip: grind your sharp bits off if you're drilling acrylic. So now it's time for some painting. I've got these all set up, and these are ever so useful. Pieces of wood with thick nails hammered through them. Use them for doing all sorts of gears and things. They're very, very useful. As always, I've hoovered them because I've got the workshop filter, dust filter going there, which is blowing lovely, clean, pure air down here and over this to get rid of any dust in the workshop. And I've got the extractor fan underneath that's connected to another cardboard construction at the back to protect my door, sucking air out, the fumes. And then what I do is I switch off the top filter before I start painting, as I realised it was just blowing all of the leftover paint into the workshop and all over me too. Whereas if you switch that one off, everything's clean, the air's clean, and you do get a lovely finish, which I'm now going to prove wrong, because I bet you, even though I've hoovered all this lovingly, there will be one or two which have got the perfect huge lumps of dust right where you can see them. Let's see. I'll give that a second coat once that's dry, and with this paint, as I've said lots of times, but might be useful to someone, plastic coat, metallic, brass, set dries in about 10-15 minutes. Really well enough to be able to handle. It's incredible stuff. The other nice thing is that the paint goes underneath these and paints the back spindle without any problem at all, even just painting from the top. This is not just any steampunk clock, it's a steamhead steampunk clock, which is why I was about to spray these up, and I suddenly thought, why on earth not just leave them silver? Why rough up the surfaces, spray them with copper paint, risk getting it scratched off and make life 10 times more difficult because copper looks nice? It's another one of those things. There's the right way, the wrong way, and the steamhead way. In the first lot, I had the coiled copper pipe, which every self-respecting steampunk machine should have, going through a laser cut cap on the pressure cylinder. And then, having got the 3D printer and remembered that I'd got a 3D printer, the last lot, the kits I think it was, I designed a 3D printed one, which is nice, lovely. So about to start painting these, I thought this is really stupid, because you're going to see the bottom and the top, because it's going to be glued onto the top of the cylinder. There's no way of painting them with brass paint. I've realised that I had metallic brass filament. So I've set it up to print 20 of these, and this time they're ready to go. I mean, this filament is fabulous. I've shown you other bits and pieces that I've printed it. You can see it's even reflecting the curtains. It's gorgeous. So I can get all 20 done and not have to worry about painting them. Keep up. And then of course these 20 can go into the box of excitement of cuts and other exciting parts, which I've already got someone who's prepared to pay the postage for. Wait until it fills up a little bit more first. I was sending off a kit, one of the clock kits that contain one of these unpainted, to a customer in America, North America, and I was using raw mail. Everything seemed to be going well, and then about a week later I received it back in the post saying it had contained a prohibited item, and they'd found it, removed it, and it could then proceed on its journey, but they decided to send it back to me and asked me why. Intrigued at this, I opened it up, and they had dutifully, obviously it had been x-rayed, and they'd seen the offending item, one of these, and they decided that they had to go through the whole kit looking for other things that obviously someone of low character such as myself, intentionally sending prohibitive gas cylinders on the airlines and things, would have included. Needless to say, they didn't find anything. And obviously, subsequently, needless to say, because obviously I drill these out. They're punctured when they're emptied, and then I drill a huge, great 4mm hole in the bottom of them so that the copper pipe goes in it. So it's obvious. And they got back to me and said, well, you can't have anything. Look here, it says you can't, except it said, other than if the pressure cylinder is obviously open and can be inspected to show that there's no residual gas. So that's what it is. And I asked, should I put a sticker on the outside with a photograph on? No reply. Obviously, as with all call centres, they're all suddenly overwhelmed with customers needing support. Whatever hour you ring them, day or night, suddenly. I wish they'd just be honest and say, we've got rid of all the support centre staff because we can make a little bit more money and you can't do anything about it. So I'm a little bit stuck about that. I'm going to have to find an alternative carrier, one with a helpline that you can actually speak to a human being. I will pursue it, and I will let you know what I find out. It's ridiculous. This is what I'm trying to tap. It's the holder, the multi-purpose holder that supports the hour dial with a hole with a rivet and a tightening screw here, which was one of the later developments because it's just too complicated to drip glue in and all the rest of it, and it's so nice to be able to repeatedly adjust something. And two holes here so it slides over, and something to hold one of these fabulous things which I incorporated in the design, used nitrous oxide containers, which youths used to get through tons of, inhaling them all and leave piles of them out on the street. But sadly, I'm coming to make 20 more of these clocks. They seem to have gone on to something new. What a shame. I'm not sure what to do about that. Anywho, I need to tap these holes. The great thing about this is that in effect you've got a pilot hole there already, so it lines it up, because the really awkward, annoying thing about tapping holes in acrylic, or for that matter anything else, is if you use one of these taps and you don't get it absolutely vertical, it'll just happily, you've got a lovely perpendicular hole, and then once you've looked at the tapped version and it's going over there and over here, and it's a pain in the backside, so you've got to keep looking at it that way, lining it up, whereas this is just a joy. It really is. Here's the hole we want to drill. It is 3.3mm, which is the same as the end of this one, because that's the size that you need. Dip the tap in the isopropyl alcohol, and then I'm going to go through very slowly, just up until the end of the thread cutting part, and then go back slowly. I don't want to go fast because it'll melt the plastic and it'll end up just ending up as a horrible thing. Dip it back in there, and then I found, again, going not too fast, I can go right through and then slowly back again, otherwise it'll all melt together. And then look at that, isn't that a joy? So it's perpendicular that way and it's perpendicular that way. Fantastic. I'll get that done. And of course, having the amount of work that goes into these, cutting these out, drilling them, doing this, I suddenly realised, having nearly made another 20 of them, beep, 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 that this is the perfect candidate for 3D printing. Why I had to wait until I'd finished making another 20 of these before I realised, I have no idea. Perfect. The threads can be printed. It can be printed out of brass, metallic brass filament. It doesn't have to be blocky. It can have twiddly bits and decorations and stuff. So I don't have to drill any holes. I don't have to tap anything. It'll just print perfectly. Project for another day. Right, let's get on with tapping. Tap, 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 tap. The other great thing about having a well-equipped workshop is when you have a problem with clothing and stuff, you have all the equipment you need to fix it. Perfect. Look at that, it's brilliant. As always, no affiliation, but I've got to tell you about this. I realised I'd run out of 2mm acrylic sheet and 3mm and laser ply yesterday, lunchtime, when I was unable to carry on cutting out parts for the clock. So I went online and ordered them from Hobart's, a company in the UK. And they've just arrived. It's 10:30 the next day. Isn't that incredible? Unbelievable. So now I can get on with making it. I just can't believe how quick it is. That's incredible. And I even requested a piece because I found they did engraving laminate, and I'm always looking to see if they're a better value supplier. But sometimes if you get cheap engraving laminate, it's awful. It doesn't cut, it's really sooty, it stinks, and you end up basically having to wipe away all the engravings trying to get all the soot off. So they very kindly sent me the sample as well. I'm very impressed, I have to say. So I can get on with the laser cutting. Bit of an unpleasant incident earlier when I started to drink this cup of coffee, which has been sitting there for 3 days, rather than this one. Very easy to tell the difference once you've got a mouthful, because it's freezing cold and tastes very strange. But I'm having a lovely time this morning gluing on all the numbers. When I was doing this originally, I thought this is very enjoyable. Other people would like to do this, hence the kit, one of the reasons for the kit. And it's so lovely because, like I was saying, you just push these in, they line up properly, and drip 3 drips of super glue on the back. It's carried around by capillary reaction and sticks it like the proverbial to the shovel. Fantastic. And today's enjoyable watching, Manchurian Candidate, one of my favourite films, classic, with a Liev Schreiber in it. He's always very good, slightly creepy. Excellent. What a strange sight. It looks like some sort of cemetery or something. But these are all the tops and bottoms of the pendulum, which I'm now going to spray up. I've glued them all together, machined them and then glued them all together. Why? Well, I know why I don't make life simple for myself, because it would be too simple. So the only way to see if I've made any mistake and got glue all over the place is to put a coat of paint on them, as it's transparent. So I will now go ahead and get these sprayed up, and hopefully won't blow them over with the spray. All hoovered as always. That doesn't look too bad. That looks pretty good, actually. Look at this. Every available space, you say? Well, I've had to reintroduce this available space just because I'd forgotten how much space it actually takes up when you're putting these machines together. All these lovely bits waiting for assembly. But there's more. Everywhere you look. Look, the springs all painted beautifully black. Oh, exciting shiny things. And all the gears. Oh, it's a joy. I can't even paint anything anymore because of all the clock movements and the hour things. It's terribly exciting. I'm also about to start making another 18 of these twiddly bits because the 3.3mm copper wire has arrived. I used to make them from steel, but it was a pain because it was so stiff. Now I use proper copper, and I can recommend, is it a Scientific Wire Company in the UK? Well worth a look, no affiliation as always, but they sell every conceivable sort of wire for artistic creative purposes. It's amazing. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Please click subscribe if you like this sort of thing. A new fresh cup of coffee this time, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks very much.